This is an incredibly strong number, stronger than anticipated, and that's good news. But the market's reaction has been a little bit muted. Futures did pick up, but they're only up by about 86 points right now for the Dow futures.
Yeah, I think the market reaction to almost all the good news has been a little bit muted over recent weeks, Becky. I mean, we've had some outstanding earnings numbers. Some of the economic data has looked quite constructive, even though we're dealing with the Delta variant. There's just, not been a huge amount of additional enthusiasm in the market, even though we're grinding a little bit higher. I have to say, I think this labor market report will be positive for sentiment, though. It is a confirmation that we're going to continue in the growth path. There's been a lot of concern that the Delta variant would slow down the recovery in the second half of this year. Perhaps we'll see more of that, but at least over the summer months. And I think this is something that Tiffany pointed out earlier. The high frequency data has looked quite good. So I think this is a positive. The only thing I will note is that companies have had a hard time continuing to get people in seats, and throughout the earnings calls have complained about having to pay meaningfully higher wages.
Right. Katie, that is a good jumping off point. Does this come as a surprise to you based on what you're hearing from clients at McKinsey?
No, not at all. I think we really are in a new war for talent. And that's true across different job categories and industries. In manufacturing, which is the space where I work, we have long had real issues with shortages of high-skilled workers. And my clients need to convince a new generation of workforce that manufacturing is a long-term sustainable industry for a great career. And it's a high-tech industry, not the manufacturing of yore.
Hey, Austin, you were thinking that we might get a lower number, especially because of what we've seen with the Delta variant. Does this number, stronger than anticipated, and especially that unemployment number all the way down to 5.4%, does that put more pressure on the Fed to start tightening policy sooner rather than later?
It might. As I said, there was this technical issue about the reference week that when they did the survey that determines the unemployment rate was before the Delta variant really started spreading. So I think we would definitely want to keep an eye on that for the next month. If the actual unemployment rate is going to get down into the 5s or even into the 4s, then even the folks that are on team temporary, like I consider myself, once we get to something like full employment, now the Fed has got to be concerned about the chances for sustained inflation. Until we resolve this issue of the seasonality that Steve mentioned, it's probably a little too hasty to do that. But I definitely think that a lovely report like this will start increasing the pressure.
Well, let's talk about what we saw from just hearing earlier. You had Senator Manchin, who was talking about how he'd like to see the Fed actually start to tighten things up. I mean, that's a little unusual. This is the first Democrat who's really started putting pressure on that. And I know you can argue that Manchin's not really a Democrat, but this is going to be incredible pressure as Jay Powell looks to figure out whether he's going to get renominated for a second term.
Yeah, no, indeed. Look, Joe Manchin is a Democrat and is the most powerful Democrat in the Senate. So if he's being critical of Jay Powell, I mean, the implications for confirmations, for nominations, all of that sort of thing are definitely on the table. Like I say, we got one lovely month here, and let's hope that we continue to put months like this together month after month in a way for the Fed to be in a pressure situation would be the best possible outcome, because it would mean the economy is coming back robustly and they would probably feel like they could start moving. But all of that hinges on the virus not raging out of control.
So I get to see all of you in my spy camera here, and I'm watching everybody at the same time. And Rick Santelli, I see you shaking your head as Austin's speaking. What are you thinking?
As usual.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a chance, not one chance, that Jay Powell will not be reconfirmed. They could play all the kabuki theater games they want. He will be confirmed. You heard it here first.
Anybody else agree with that? Disagree with that? Looking around the panel. Steve?
Well, Becky.
Oh, go ahead. Kate, jump in.
Not so much on Jay Powell, but I want to agree with something Austin said, which is a couple months of high payrolls is the best possible outcome. I think we all want to be in a place where the Fed has to consider their policy and how they think about removing accommodation, whether it's tapering asset purchases or talking about eventually raising policy rates. That is an outstanding outcome, and I think one we are all hoping for over coming quarters.